You ever have one of those mornings where you're just sitting by the window, sipping your coffee or tea, and watching the world move a little slower than it used to? Maybe the birds come and go like clockwork, maybe the same neighbor walks by with their little dog every day at the same time, but something in you just sits there and wonders, am I really as independent as I want to be? I had one of those mornings not long ago, and I'll be honest, it got me thinking. Independence means different things to different people, especially after 70. For some, it's being able to drive to the store without relying on anyone. For others, it's cooking your own meals, managing your day-to-day without someone hovering, or simply being able to enjoy a walk around the block without fear of falling or forgetting why you went outside in the first place. And I get it, talking about independence can stir up all sorts of feelings. Maybe some pride, maybe a little frustration, maybe even fear. But here's the good news. Staying independent isn't about being perfect or pretending you don't need anyone. It's about making smart, small choices now so you can keep living life on your terms later. You see, I've talked to so many folks in their 70s, 80s, even 90s who said the same thing in different ways. I wish I'd paid attention to that sooner. Whether it was their balance, their diet, their daily habits, or just staying mentally sharp, these little things have a way of sneaking up on you. But here's the real kicker. They're avoidable. That's right. The things that chip away at our independence don't usually come in with a bang. They whisper. They creep in through the small decisions, the little oversights. That's why I wanted to have this conversation today. Not as some lecture or scare tactic. Heaven knows we've had enough of those, but as a friendly nudge. A reminder. A conversation between you and me about 5 very common mistakes that folks over 70 make. Mistakes that slowly chip away at independence even when everything else seems fine. And before we dive into any one of them too deeply, let's just sit with this one idea. You are not powerless. You're not too old, and it's not too late. That's the biggest myth of aging, that once you hit a certain number, things are just downhill. Nonsense. You've still got choice. You've still got voice. And your future? It's not set in stone. Is shaped by what you do today, right now. Now, one of the biggest mistakes I see, and this is something that creeps up so quietly, is when we start to move less. Not stop moving altogether, just less. Maybe we sit a little longer. We skip the walk if it's cold. We start using the remote for everything and tell ourselves, I'll stretch later. And just like that, the body begins to slow down. Muscles shrink a little. Balance starts to wobble, and the couch becomes our daily headquarters. Here's what most people don't realize. Movement is one of the most powerful protectors of independence. You don't need to run marathons or do cartwheels. I mean, hey, if you can, go for it. But seriously, even just 10 to 15 minutes of daily intentional movement can work wonders. Think of your body like a garden. If you stop tending it, weeds pop up. The soil gets hard. But a little watering, a little pruning here and there, and it thrives. I met a woman named Eileen last year. She was 79. Bright-eyed, funny as can be. She told me, I don't exercise to stay thin, honey. I exercise so I don't have to call my daughter every time I want to reach something on the top shelf. That's what it's about. Not vanity. Not fitness fads. Just freedom. And the beautiful thing is, starting small works. Even just standing up and sitting down from your chair 10 times a day is a form of strength training. Marching in place while brushing your teeth? That counts. You're keeping your legs strong, your heart awake, and your independence within arm's reach. Now let's talk about another subtle trap. Letting routines slip away. You know the ones I mean, those little daily rhythms that used to structure our day. Getting dressed even if you're staying home. Making a proper breakfast. Calling a friend every Thursday afternoon. These might seem small or even silly, but they're the glue that keeps our minds sharp and our spirits steady. Without routines, days start to blur. And when days blur, we lose track of time, purpose, even joy. I once had a man tell me, I didn't realize I was lonely until I noticed I hadn't talked to anyone in 3 days. That hit me like a brick. Routines anchor us. They remind us who we are, what we enjoy, and that each day still belongs to us. Even if it's something as simple as reading the paper at the table instead of in bed, or putting on a spritz of cologne just for yourself. Those habits matter more than we give them credit for. And I want to pause right here and say, if anything I've said so far is hitting home, if it's made you think of a parent, a friend, or even yourself, go ahead and click that like button or share this with someone who needs to hear it. It might feel small, but you never know who needs a gentle nudge today. We're just scratching the surface here, my friend. And I want you to know this isn't about shame or blame. It's about awareness. Once you see the small things that are pulling you away from independence, you can start turning the tide. Because this next chapter of life is still yours to write. And trust me, it can be richer, freer, and more fulfilling than you ever imagined. So let's keep this going. You and me. We've got more to talk about, because staying independent after 70 is not just possible, it's powerful. So, we were just talking about how movement and routines help us stay grounded, strong, and, most importantly, free. It's funny, isn't it? How the things that seem so small, like taking a walk or getting dressed with intention, can have such a deep impact on how we feel and function each day. Now let me tell you about a man named Carl. Carl's 82. Lives alone. Sharp as a tack. But when I met him, he was frustrated. He told me, I used to be the guy everyone came to for advice. Now people treat me like I need to be protected from life. That stuck with me. Because it wasn't about pride, it was about how people around him had slowly started making decisions for him instead of with him. And over time he started believing them. He stopped speaking up in family conversations, stopped going out as much, and started doubting himself. This brings me to another sneaky little trap that chips away at independence. Underestimating your own voice. Sometimes, without realizing it, we start to silence ourselves. We go along with plans that don't excite us, or we avoid asking questions at the doctor's office because we don't want to be a bother. We let others take the lead, our kids, our spouses, our friends, and before we know it, we've stopped leading our own lives. Now, let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with accepting help. Help is beautiful. Help is community. But there's a big difference between support and surrender. And you, my friend, still have every right to say, this is what I want, or that doesn't work for me. Your voice has not expired. In fact, it may be wiser now than it's ever been. Remember, independence isn't about doing everything by yourself. It's about being in charge of the decisions that shape your life. That might mean speaking up at your next doctor's appointment and asking, why this medication? Or telling your family, actually, I'd prefer to walk myself to the mailbox. Just in case, stay nearby, but let me try first. Those moments may seem small, but they're like weightlifting for your self-confidence. I always say, the more you speak your truth, the stronger it gets. And here's something else I want to gently bring up. It's something many of us don't like to admit, but it plays a huge role in how long we can stay independent. Avoiding hard conversations. I know, not exactly a dinner table topic. But hear me out. Sometimes we put off talking about things like our wishes if we ever get sick, or how we want to handle money as we age, or what kind of help we might be okay with if we ever need it. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. Because we don't want to seem negative or worse, vulnerable. But here's the truth. Avoiding these conversations doesn't protect us. It prevents us from being prepared. Let me tell you about my friend Grace. She's 76, always smiling, loves baking cinnamon rolls for her grandkids. A few months ago, she slipped in her kitchen and ended up needing a short hospital stay. Nothing major, thankfully. But what shook her wasn't the fall. It was realizing she had no plan in place. Her daughter flew in from another state, didn't know where anything was, didn't know what medications Grace was taking, and Grace kept saying through tears, I should have written it all down. Grace is doing just fine now, and guess what she did once she got home? She sat down with her daughter and said, here's what you need to know, just in case. And the relief on her face after that conversation? You could feel it in the room. See, when we take the time to talk about the what ifs, we're not giving up control, we're taking it back. We're saying, I may not know what's coming, but I'm still the captain of this ship. And I'll tell you what, your future self will thank you for it. Speaking of which, I'd love to hear from you. What have you done to stay independent? Or is there a moment in your life, recent or years ago, when you felt yourself starting to pull back but decided to push forward instead? Maybe you had a wake-up call, or maybe someone said something that stuck with you. Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. I'd love to read your story, and I know someone else watching will too. You never know who needs to hear exactly what you have to say today. And while we're here, I want you to take a deep breath and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, where have I been playing small? Where am I waiting instead of deciding? And most importantly, what would help me feel just a little more in control again? Because this is the heart of independence. Choice, not perfection. Not pushing through pain. Just choice. If you can choose to walk to the corner instead of sitting one more hour, that's independence. If you can choose to speak your truth even if your voice trembles, that's independence. If you can choose to sit down with someone and say, here's how I want things to be if life throws me a curveball, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. And I want to say something to anyone watching who might be feeling like they've already lost too much. Maybe you don't move like you used to. Maybe you've had to give up driving or cooking or doing some of the things that once made you feel free. That's okay. You are still worthy of making decisions about your life. You still get to say what matters to you. And you are still capable of growing, learning, and finding new ways to feel powerful in your own skin. Because independence doesn't live in your legs or your eyesight or your bank account. It lives in your spirit. And that spirit? That's still burning bright. So let's keep this fire going, shall we? Because there's still more to unpack, and I want you walking away from this video not just informed, but inspired. We've come this far together, and I have a feeling the best part of this conversation is just around the corner. You know, something beautiful happens when we start paying attention, not just to what's slipping away, but to what's still within reach. And if you've made it this far in our chat, it tells me something important about you. You care. Not just about surviving these years, but about thriving in them. That kind of mindset? It's gold. Let's keep building on that. We've already talked about the importance of moving more, sticking to routines, speaking up, and having those tough but loving conversations. But there's another piece to this puzzle that often gets overlooked. Connection. Not just being around people, but really connecting. Because one of the biggest threats to independence as we age isn't just physical decline. It's isolation. Now I know that word carries a certain weight. No one likes to think of themselves as lonely. But the truth is, even people surrounded by family can feel isolated. Especially when the conversation moves too fast, or you feel like folks are just waiting for you to finish your story so they can check their phones. It happens. But here's the thing. Staying connected, genuinely, emotionally, socially, is like fertilizer for your independence. It keeps your mind sharp, your mood stable, and your purpose alive. And it's not about needing people to do things for you. It's about having people to do life with you. I remember a man named Jorge. He was 85, quiet, lived alone after his wife passed. For a while, he'd just sit on his porch every morning with his newspaper and coffee. Didn't talk to many folks. But one day he struck up a conversation with a kid walking his dog. That turned into a daily hello, which turned into short chats, which turned into Jorge teaching the kid how to play chess. That one small connection brought Jorge back to life. He said to me, "I didn't even know I was lonely until I wasn't anymore." Isn't that something? Whether it's a neighbor, an old friend, a book club, or a local walking group, reach out. Someone out there is waiting to hear your voice, to feel seen by you. And if you're watching this thinking, "But I don't have anyone nearby," you're not alone. There are online communities, phone check-in programs, and yes, even comment sections like this one where real connection can start. Don't let pride or fear keep you isolated. You have stories worth sharing, wisdom worth passing on, and laughter worth spreading. And while we're talking about things worth sharing, if you've found even one nugget of hope or clarity in this video so far, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell next to it. That way you'll always know when a new conversation like this one is ready for you. And maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what you'll need to hear that day. Alright, now let's take this one step further. You ever walk into a room and forget why you went in there? Or struggle to remember the name of a movie you watched just last week? It's normal, right? We joke about it, call it a senior moment. But underneath that humor, there's sometimes a quiet fear. What if I'm losing it? What if I'm not as sharp as I used to be? Let me tell you, mental independence is just as vital as physical independence. And the mistake many people make is thinking that the brain can just run on autopilot without a little maintenance. But like any good machine, it needs care, fuel, and exercise. Now, I'm not talking about brain games or expensive apps. I'm talking about the little things that keep your mind awake and alive. Learning something new, doing puzzles, telling stories, listening to music that makes you feel something, asking questions, trying a new recipe, writing a letter by hand. I once met a woman named Beverly, 76 years young, who took up watercolor painting during the pandemic. I'd never held a brush in my life, she said, but my mind just lit up every time I dipped into those colors. That spark? That's brain health. That's memory. That's joy. Don't underestimate how powerful curiosity is. It keeps you present, engaged, independent. It tells the world, I'm still here and I'm still growing. But here's where I'll get a little tender with you, because there's one more thing that plays into all of this, and it's often the quietest voice in the room, how we talk to ourselves. You see, one of the most damaging mistakes we can make as we get older is believing the story that says, it's all downhill from here. That little inner critic, the one that whispers, you're too old, or you'll never get that back. It steals more from your independence than any sore knee or stiff back ever could. So let me ask you gently but honestly, what story are you telling yourself these days? Are you saying, I'm just trying to get through? Or are you saying, I'm still building my life? Are you saying, I don't want to be a burden? Or are you saying, I still have value to give? Because what you say to yourself becomes what you believe. And what you believe becomes how you live. So let's change the story. Let's write one where you are not shrinking, you are shining. One where independence doesn't mean isolation, but empowerment. One where your best years aren't behind you, they're in front of you, just waiting for you to reach out and claim them. You're not finished. You're not forgotten. You're not fading. You are learning. You are choosing. You are becoming. And I hope, truly hope, you're starting to feel that in your bones. What I love about conversations like this, they remind us that we're still in motion, still learning, still evolving. Just because the world likes to slap labels on us after a certain age, senior, retired, elderly, doesn't mean we stop having goals or wanting to grow. And if you're here watching, listening, soaking this in, it tells me you're not just interested in getting by. You want to live well on your terms. So let's keep going. Let's talk about something that can either quietly support our independence or quietly sabotage it if we're not paying attention. And that's the way we manage our environment, the space we live in, how we move through it, and what surrounds us every day. I was visiting a dear friend, Judy, a few months back. She's 79, full of sass, sharp as ever. But while I was helping her make tea, I noticed she had to stand on her tiptoes to grab her favorite mug from the top shelf. Then later, she kind of shuffled sideways through her narrow hallway, squeezing past the storage box that had been there for months. Nothing major, just little things. But when we sat down, I asked her, Judy, if you lived with someone 20 years younger, would you let them do those things every day? She looked at me and laughed. Absolutely not, she said. I'd tell them to knock it off before they fall and break something. Sometimes we get so used to our own space we stop seeing the risks. We stop noticing how we've adapted in quiet, uncomfortable ways. That rug we've stepped over for years, the dim light in the hallway, the slippery shower tiles, we just deal with them. But here's the truth. Your home should support your independence, not challenge it. If we want to stay independent after 70, we have to be willing to do what I call a loving reset. Not to take away your style or your routines, but to make your environment safer, easier, and more in tune with where you are now. Because small changes can mean the difference between freedom and a fall. And I don't say that to scare you. I say it because I've seen too many smart, vibrant people lose their confidence, not because of age but because of a preventable accident in their own home. Things like brighter lighting, grab bars in the bathroom, non-slip mats, rethinking the placement of your most used items. They're not signs of giving in. They're signs of staying in control. Of saying, I want to be here, doing life on my terms for as long as I can. And don't wait for someone else to tell you to do it. If a drawer sticks every time you open it, fix it. If your favorite armchair has turned into a soft trap that's hard to get out of, consider swapping it out. You deserve ease. You deserve a space that says, I belong here and I'm not afraid to move through it. And while we're on the subject of self-advocacy, I want to touch on another area that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. Not staying on top of health basics. I'm talking about regular checkups, hearing and vision tests, staying up to date with medications. Not in a panic-driven way, but in a proactive, empowered way. A lot of us grew up with the mindset that you only go to the doctor when something's wrong. But let me tell you, staying independent means staying ahead of the game. Your eyesight affects how you move through space. Your hearing affects how well you connect with others. Your balance, your digestion, your sleep, these aren't small things. They're the foundation of how you function day to day. I know someone, I'll call him Bill, who avoided getting his hearing checked for years. Said he didn't want to feel old, didn't want to bother. But what he didn't realize was that missing pieces of conversations was making him withdraw. He stopped going to church, stopped meeting his buddies for lunch, stopped answering the phone. It wasn't about the hearing loss, it was about the isolation that came from pretending it wasn't happening. The day he got fitted for hearing aids, he called me. I didn't know how much I was missing, he said, his voice thick with emotion. And you know what happened next? He started volunteering at a local school, reading to kids. His world opened back up, because he took one small step toward owning his health instead of avoiding it. That's the kind of shift we all deserve. Not fear-driven, not shame-based. Just honest, caring attention to the things that keep us vibrant. And you know what else? It's okay to ask for help along the way. Independence doesn't mean isolation. In fact, sometimes the most independent thing you can do is build your circle. Find a neighbor you trust. Talk to your pharmacist. Let a friend know you're thinking of switching up your exercise routine and want a buddy. Create your own little support team, not because you're failing, but because you're invested in your future. The truth is, there is no shame in doing things differently than you used to. Needing new tools, new habits, even new support systems. It doesn't mean you're less capable. It means you're smart enough to adapt. And if there's one thing I hope you walk away with today, it's this. Adaptation is not weakness. It's wisdom. Your independence isn't something to defend at all costs. It's something to protect with intention, with care, and with grace. And hey, if any part of this is landing with you, if you're starting to think about your own home, your health, or your daily habits in a new light, that's something to feel proud of. That's forward motion. You don't need to overhaul your whole life in a day. Just pick one thing. One drawer to reorganize. One phone call to make. One doctor to check in with. One conversation to open up. Little steps are still steps. And over time, they add up to a life that feels more manageable, more joyful, and more yours. You've come this far not by accident, but by resilience. So whatever changes lie ahead, know this. You are more than capable of meeting them with courage and clarity. And I'll be right here with you every step of the way. I want you to take a deep breath with me. Just let your shoulders fall a little. Take in this moment. Because if you're still here, still listening, still thinking about your future and what it means to live independently, I want you to know, I see you. And I'm proud of you. You've just spent the last little while investing in something that too many people ignore until it's too late. Yourself. Not just your body or your habits or your house, but your life. You're right to keep steering the wheel as you grow older. That's powerful. And here's something I want you to remember long after this video ends. Your independence doesn't come from doing everything alone. It comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and how to ask for what you need. It's not about proving anything to the world. It's about living in a way that feels right to you. Now, let's just think back for a second, not in a checklist way, but more like sitting at a kitchen table with a cup of tea and saying, "Wow, look what we talked about today." We've explored how keeping our bodies moving, even just a little, can be the difference between staying strong and slowly stiffening up. We talked about routines, not because they're rigid, but because they give structure and peace. We looked at the power of communication, of speaking up when something doesn't feel right instead of suffering in silence. We uncovered the deep value of connection, how a simple conversation can open the door to a whole new chapter. And we gave some tender love and attention to the everyday details, your home, your health, your mindset, that hold everything else together. These aren't just tips. They're truths. They're little beacons that light the path forward, not just for today, but for the years to come. And if some part of you has been whispering, "It's too late for me," I'm here to tell you, it's not. It never has been. I don't care if you're 71 or 97, you can start from where you are. Maybe you've made some of these mistakes before. We all have. But you're not defined by your past choices. You're shaped by what you do next. I met a man once, Walter. He was 88 when I met him. For years he refused help. Didn't want to change his home, didn't want to ask his kids for anything, didn't want to admit he needed hearing aids. He told me, "I spent my whole life being strong. I don't know how to be anything else." But over time, little by little, he let go of that old version of strength. He made a few changes, swallowed his pride, and one day he said something I'll never forget. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "I didn't lose my independence. I just found a new way to carry it." That right there, that's the heart of everything we've talked about. Independence doesn't look the same at 75 as it did at 35. But that doesn't make it less valuable. In many ways it's more real, more earned. And if you're still watching, maybe your heart feels a little lighter now. Or maybe it feels a little more ready. Ready to try. Ready to adjust. Ready to say, "I want to be in charge of this next chapter, not just wait for life to happen to me." You are not a burden. You are not invisible. You are not on the sidelines of life. You are here. You are wise. You are important. And you have more to offer than the world sometimes remembers to ask for. So let's rewrite the script that says aging is all about decline and dependency. Let's show the world that this season of life, this chapter, can be one of power, creativity, and joy. And you know what else? Someone in your life needs to hear what you've just heard. Maybe it's a friend who's been withdrawing lately. Maybe it's a loved one who's starting to believe their best years are behind them. Maybe it's you on a different day. That's why I'd be so grateful if you take a moment to like, share, or comment on this video. It's not just about algorithms or clicks. It's about connection. Every single like or share tells someone else, "You're not alone in this. Come join the conversation." And if you haven't yet, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Not because you need more noise in your life, but because I promise you, this space is here to uplift, not overwhelm. We're building something special here. A place where you'll always find encouragement, practical wisdom, and a voice that speaks with you, not at you. So, let's make a quiet promise to ourselves today. That we'll keep learning. That we'll keep moving. That we'll stay curious. That we'll reach out when we need help and offer help when we can. That we'll keep telling our stories even when the world tries to talk over us. Because aging doesn't mean fading. It means rising, just in a softer, deeper, more meaningful way. So here's to you. To your strength, your heart, your humor, your resilience. Here's to all the mistakes you've learned from. To all the choices you're still brave enough to make. And to the beautiful, unshakable truth that you are still the author of your own life. Here's to living your best life, at any age. I'll see you in the next one, my friend. Take care. Stay strong. and never stop believing in what's still possible.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It truly means a lot. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with a friend or loved one who might benefit. And leave a comment below. We love hearing your thoughts and experiences. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest tips and uplifting advice for living your best life at any age. Now, if you're ready for more wisdom and encouragement, just click the video that's on your screen right now. It's packed with even more insights made just for you. Take care, stay positive, and we'll see you in the next one.